Hey all, welcome to my channel, and this is the third video on design patterns series, and also this is the third video on like creational design patterns. So previously I have explained like factory design pattern and also abstract factory design pattern. If you miss the videos, I will put the link in description. Please go and watch. And today we are discussing about like builder design pattern. This is basically one of the most used and most important design pattern, and for Spring it's like by default design pattern like. So with the help of at the rate builder annotation, you get complete implementation just like that, like in the Spring Boot like. So let's talk about like builder design pattern. So before that, we need to know how to approach think to get to builder design pattern. So let's talk about like how we generally create a constructor. Like what are the possible ways of creating a constructor? So constructor can be created with the help of new statement, right? Constructor. So what are types of ways of constructor? It can be like no-args constructor, and also we'll pass arguments in the constructor. So these are the different ways of creating a constructor. Like let's say if a class has like 50 fields, and like now I want to create an object and initialize all those fields. Now how you will create a constructor? Like let's say it is not a good practice of passing all the variables, all the 50 variables in a constructor, right, as a functional arguments. That is a very bad way of designing things. So because all those 50 fields might not be useful, some can be null. So you need to pass everywhere, like when you're creating a new object, let's say you're using a class in a 5 different ways. So one way, for one type making only 10 fields and rest of the fields are like null. For other class object, for other type of initialization, you are making around 30 fields as like you're passing parameters, and remaining fields are null. So seeing lot of unusual things and passing as an arguments in a constructor, which is very bad way of designing things. So you can use setters and getters. There is another way of designing building things, which very good way, I would say. So before going to that, let's think about like how we create a user details. What all things are required? Let's think about like I want to store a user info in our DB. Let's think what all things required for me. Like so for me, what is the most thing required is like username, your password, and also email ID. What else things can be there in the user database? It can be phone number, date of birth, first name, last name, middle name. It can be anything, right? So we already got a lot of things, like when using login, when using sign up, we are using user object. Everything we cannot be displayed, like so some might be null. So there we will use like a different request mapper, response mapper might be different, but in general way, for some cases some might be null, for some cases some might be required, for some cases complete whole object will be required. So that's why we require some kind of building mechanism where we can require as many fields we want, and we can ignore remaining fields or whatever fields we don't want. That's nothing but a builder pattern. Let's see builder pattern. So builder patterns basically talks about separating the construction of complex object, just now what we talked, from its representation, so that some construction process can create different representations. That's what I just told, right? Depending upon whatever we want, we just build only those things. It gives a different behavior every time we are constructing, but that doesn't looks very complex. It's like it looks very simple. We're building what we actually require and we're ignoring rest. That's actually builder design pattern. Now let's talk about examples. Like builder design pattern is most used and well known in Java, and yeah, whenever it's required whenever your class is basically configuration class, when you want to configure lot of complex objects from the particular class, their builder pattern is like very useful. Not just useful, people will only use the builder pattern only. There are three major issues with factory and abstract factory design patterns when you're actually creating an object, because we just learned only those two things, right? We are overcoming with the help of builder pattern. So too many arguments to pass a client program to the factory class, that can be error prone, because most of the time the type of arguments are same on the client side. That is the one, as I said, too many arguments. Second thing is like some parameters might be optional. So every time we need to keep as like null. And also object becomes very heavy in the complex stage itself. Like these are like major issues when we are dealing with the creation of object with the help of factory and the abstract factory. So when we create a builder design pattern, when we have too many optional fields, a different way of defining object immutability also, that is a concept we will discuss later. And when we want to restriction over fields, accessing hierarchy, this is the one I didn't see anywhere talking about this particular one, so I'll talk about in this video. So you can actually control the way of building also. See, let's say simple example, you want to build a car, right? You cannot color the car without even have the particle material arranged. So first thing is like you require some engine. On top of that you will put the what you call machine. On top of that you will have the color. On top of that you will attach the all necessary stickers and extra design. So while building, this is the hierarchy we should follow. We cannot say okay, I'll first color and then I'll see, it doesn't make sense, right? So this is the way of hierarchy. So we can restrict the how we build the object also. That is the one advantage of using builder pattern also. I will explain both the ways. Now before that I have explaining this one with the two examples. That's why I already told, right? Sometimes you will require multiple examples to explain the concept. First thing is like with the help of user builder, which I just discussed. Second thing is I'll explain the car builder, how we construct just like that, and how we restrict the hierarchy. Now let's see about like user class. So user has like first name, last name is required in this case, and age and phone number is optional for me. It doesn't matter whether it is build or not build. In DB, those two are like basically null fields, but username, first name and last name is basically not null feature is there in the DB. So likewise also you can correlate with your class with the actual DB. You can basically make both in a sync way, your class object and also how the DB works. So that's why there are gets are there. In user, instead of passing all the arguments, right, I was just passing the user builder. I will talk what about user builder now. So user builder is basically static class inside the user itself. So user builder will have all the fields which has the user object, and also user fields. So there are two mandatory things, right? That's why we will create a constructor with the two mandatory things, because that behavior is not changed how many times you create the object. But with the optional fields, the behavior will change every time you create it. That is the only difference between mandatory and optional. So that's why I have created a user builder with the two mandatory fields called first name and last name. Second thing is like I'm setting the age. Every time if you observe, right, I am returning the complete object itself, like complete. This is nothing but the current reference object, right? I am returning every time returning the object. So this is nothing but here user builder. Next set phone. This is also optional, so I am returning this. Finally, we have a method called build that's actually return the user object. So this set age, set phone, all the optional methods will basically return the user builder object. When we are building the object, right, once the build was done, so user builder should convert into the user. How it will convert? By passing the user builder into the user constructor, so that user will create all the necessary fields. That's why here we are passing this is nothing but we are passing the user builder to the user object. So here in the user builder has the user builder argument in the constructor. It is creating everything like from the builder. This is a simple way of creating an object with the help of builder pattern. Let's see how it works like. So you have a user builder with mandatory and optional fields. So now I just want to build. So there is a form. Let's talk about even more clear. There is a user form is there at the front end side. Your backend logic is there, and there is a data store is there. From the front end logic, you have mentioned first name and last name is like required, and remaining things is optional, which means like after entering the first and last name, if you click on submit, right, it will basically comes to our Java services, and it will directly store in the DB. If it is first name and last name is not presented, then there is front end validation is there. If someone bypasses the front end validation, there is also back end validation is there, because these two arguments are mandatory. Like this is also one concept of how the builder will work. So here I was first checking with the mandatory fields. So I was building like with my name and last name, and I was building. So here builder is created successfully. Next time, along with mandatory, I was adding the optionals also. I was entering the age, I was entering the phone. So how this will work is like whenever user updating the form, right? Then all the mandatory fields will be pre-populated, and you can enter all the whatever information you want. You're providing to the particular website, right? Like let's say A's phone number. It will build accordingly, and it will create the user object. It will store and it will in DB. This is the way we creating a user object, like with the help of builder design pattern. So only thing you need to put in mind is like basically passing the user builder in the constructor argument instead of passing different fields, different fields of user. Second thing is like create a class called static class called user builder, and there is a one thing called mandatory thing is like whatever fields are mandatory should be as like constructor passing an arguments, and second function mandatory thing is like build object. Remaining things are optional like. So if you execute this program, right, it will return the standard two string whatever I mentioned over here, first name, last name, age and phone. For first example, it will return the null. For phone number and age, it will return. For second example, it will return everything as it is. Like I'll explain. I'll run in very short. So now let's talk about like or else wait a minute, I'll just run and then we can discuss this later. See, if you see, right, see in the first object, like we have first name and last name and age and phone are like default values, and for second object we have like we are basically building complete object, right? So we got the complete data. This is about like builder pattern. Let's talk about like priority fields, with priority fields and without priority fields, with the help of example called car. Just now we talked, right? So now talk about without priority fields. So what are the, let's think about fields are required for the car. Like there are so for a car there will be seats are required. How many seats it can be like a small car or big car, right? The seats are mandatory thing, which is a one field. Second thing is like what is the color of the car, and third thing is like what is the engine power. You can add as many fields you want. So for timing, I'm explaining with these three fields. And also one more thing, I got this question in interview also. That's why I'm explaining particularly this car example. So I just given normally like car builder. So car builder. So I have created getters. So I have created static class car builder. So here nothing was mandatory, everything was optional. Like so I was every time I was returning this, right? So I was returning this. So set number of seats, set engine power, set color. So finally I'm building, was passing this car builder inside the car object. So car was created, car object got created. So that is the without priority fields. Now let's say without constructing number of seats, you shouldn't build a engine power field. Without building engine power field, you shouldn't build a color object field, which means a color has two dependencies and engine has one dependency called seats. So now think about how you will design this one with the help of builder design pattern. Actually, one thing I'm saying is like there is nothing to do. There is nothing. You will change this complete structure. By seeing this one, you might get right. You might just think for a few seconds by pausing this video. If you are good with interfaces, you will. I think by this time you already get the answer. Like because if you see here we are returning this, here we are returning this, here we are returning this, which means we are returning the car builder object. So all these three functions has a car builder object. You can access all these three functions without any hierarchy. Let's suppose instead of you are returning this, let's say you created a interface called seat interface, and then provide a, and then whatever interface return type is there, right? If you provided this one, right, next, once you build this one, next time when you click on dot, it will give the function of that particular interface. It will not give the, you are not returning the this object, you are returning the what is the return type of the particular function. So it will go to the particular interface, and whatever function is there, it will return that particular interface, like that particular interface function. Anyway, let's see the example, like you might understand very clearly. Like, so this with priority fields, we have a car builder. For example, without setting car, we cannot set engine. We cannot set engine power. Without setting engine power, we cannot set number of seats. Hierarchy is like, first we need to set the number of seats, then you need to set the engine power. At last only you should set the color of the car. This problem can also be called as program to interfaces. So this is the car object, right? So let's see about car builder. So let's see, we have like so total we have 3 fields, right? So I'm creating three interfaces, like, so color interface. See, you should understand this one. So ultimately number of seats should return the, see, number of seats should return the engine power object, which means instead of returning this, you need to return the engine power object. This engine power object should return the color object, and at last color object should return the car builder object. That's it, you got it. Means this can be written this, and this can not return this, because this should return the color object and this should return the engine power object. Let's see. We have like, first is like number of seats, right? Seat capacity. Seat capacity is an interface which is taking the integer called seat capacity and returning the engine power. So, and engine power is taking the engine power as a argument and returning the color. At last color is taking the color, which is like last one, and finally returning the color builder. This is the called programming to interfaces. So how the car builder will look like, so car builder should implement, of course, should implement all the interfaces, so that you will get all the overridden classes. So when you are implement, because this is, we need to create an objects, right? So previously how the builder will look like, how the car builder will look like previously, not this one. Previously car builder, it has like set number of seats, set engine power, set color, and now it was slightly changed to dot seat capacity, dot engine power, and dot color. See, this dot seat capacity is basically returning the engine power. This and this dot engine power is basically returning the color, and this color basically returning the car builder. At last, nothing, we are returning the car with this number of seats, engine power, and also color. Here, instead of here we can simply return the car builder also. That is not a big issue. So we are simply constructing the object like. So actually you can, because of programming to interfaces, right, we are extracting out the static class outside of the car class. If you see, clearly observe, right? So this is the one way of building the builder pattern. So I'll explain through example. Normal car builder. So car builder was builder dot, you can set color at first itself, and then you can decide engine, and then you can decide number of seats. It will simply return the car object. There is no wrong in that. Now let's say this is priority car. This is special type of car. Car builder dot get instance. This get instance is returning the car builder basically, because seating capacity. This get instance should return the seat capacity. First one should be the seat capacity, right? That's why I have mentioned like this. So after get instance, if you see dot, nothing was coming, like dot only seating capacity was there, nothing was there. Once you enable the seat capacity, then only you're getting engine power, you're not getting color also, right? Once you're enabling the engine power, then you're getting color. So which means that at every level you're basically restricting the way of building the object. It's completely up to your control, like how you want to build the object. Like, so this is the one way of building the object. You can use in very special cases. Yeah, so I'll run the program. See, both are exactly same, but this is like with priority, with hierarchy restriction, and this is without hierarchy restriction. Anyway, I'll share complete code in the GitHub, right? You can refer also. If you don't know my GitHub, this is my GitHub. Here I have already explained factory, abstract factory, and now I explain builder. The next video I'm going to explain prototype design pattern. In 2 videos, the creational design pattern will be completed. Then I'll do quick recap. I think that's it for today's tutorial. Like, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you have any doubts, please mention in the comments. I will try to reply with every comment and every doubt, everything. Like, if I did mistake, I'll try to correct also. Like, so we'll soon meet with a prototype design pattern. Till then, stay tuned. Bye bye.